you are one of the few CEOs that took a company through a public offering in the midst of COVID. I mean, what a journey. Tell us a little bit first about who is Sumo Logic and a little bit about taking the company IPO. And then we're going to get into the subject of data and its importance.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for the opportunity for this. So rewinding the clock, in 2008 and 2009, our founders who actually came from the security space found that a lot of their job, because their technology from a company, ArcSight, another one, SenseAge, was really focused when they went on site to customers to debugging issues with the deployment of Oracle or the components, and or direct result of what happened upstream when centralized IT or development teams released software and updates. And so that was what caused the potential risks, threats, breaches downstream in the SecOps team, or security operations. So their frustration there led to an idea to build a cloud native, or was called a SIEM, Security Information Event Management Service, in the cloud for the cloud, and then shift left to hold accountability upstream to centralized IT and development teams. So right idea, right vision, maybe a little bit early for the journey because not too many security practitioners were adopting cloud and SaaS. So lo and behold, what ended up happening was developers, DevOps, TechOps, folks responsible for building software and coding, releasing and testing software, and deploying and updating software started to use Sumo to monitor and troubleshoot. And that's how we got really a foothold into the early parts of our business. But the mission for us was really to democratize data and to democratize data analytics, effectively to connect those folks upstream to downstream security.
I think the whole data question I want to get to, it's so relevant to the emerging technology that's going on right now. But just take us to the last year. So you obviously build a business successfully. You've been their CEO since 2014?
Correct.
So 2020, 6 years later, the company goes public. What's it like to take a company public? And secondly, what's it like to take a company public in the midst of COVID?
Well, I don't know what it's like to take a company public not in COVID, so I can't
That's
necessarily compare.
right. What a crazy question.
But I can tell you that, it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. We started in preparing for this. It's kind of like you've practiced, you've had a practice squad and you're preparing to move to the major leagues, right? And we were ready to go out and go public earlier in the year and COVID hit. So that derailed our plans. And then we kind of picked up those plans again. And it's kind of strange to do the whole thing virtual because, the typical model is you're going from city to city, night traveling, and you're doing, 5 cities. And, we did that at the beginning of the year and we assumed we're going to do that again. And then suddenly now you're talking to these potential investors all over video and Zoom. And so it's kind of anticlimactic, to be honest with you, because it's hard to make that connection initially. And so one part of that learning is you just got to put that aside, right? And try to connect as much as you can. Second part of it is, I think learning for us, there's a lot of hunger with these investors, and particularly thematic category investors who are looking for transformational technology. So it doesn't matter the medium that you're using to communicate with them, in person, phone call, Zoom. They want to know the basics of your business, your strategy, how you can build sustainable, durable growth, how you have a competitive, differentiated offering. And that's what we had to really focus on and not worry about, oh, wow, we're trying to go out when, who knows when people will get healthy again or when the macroeconomic situation changes. And so we dared to enter that. We headed it to the public markets in September. And, we had a lot of volatility the day we were about to go out or the day before. And that's just par for the course this year. But the thing that we were advised on from some close friends and people that have been down this road before is stay true to what you say, focus on delivering value in terms of investors and your customers and partners, be true and honest to that, and you'll earn it out over the long run.
So congratulations on getting the IPO done and the success since. Now, how many employees?
We're just about 800 employees or so.
Okay, so now you shift not just into public mode, which carries a different degree of governance, as we all know, but you also shift to remote working.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, pretty big year. Biggest challenge?
Culture, maintaining productivity and mental health, sense of urgency and focus, alignment and making sure communication is up and down, not just down, particularly up. And I think last but definitely not least, trying to have fun. It's a lot easier when you're in the office environment or you have locations where you can bring that. And so, those are the things I worry about and try to balance every day.
I'm a great believer that happy employees do good work. Miserable employees don't do good work. And so emphasis on culture and that foundation, couldn't agree with you more. If you were going to explain to a relatively non-technical audience, and we have a technical audience, but maybe not all in the depth of security, how do you tell people what Sumo does, Sumo Logic? What do you do?
So we created a new category called continuous intelligence. And that's premised on the vision of democratizing machine data and machine data analytics, not for the few, but for the masses. And what that means is being able to, with the power and the insights that we're able to derive from statistical correlation, machine learning, AI, to a developer or security practitioner, a line of business user, whoever it may be, without them having to know and go search for things. And so in essence, what we're trying to do is streaming data analytics, putting it in context to insights for your role and your need at that point in time without making you be an expert in query language or in data analysis and the like. You don't need PhDs to do this. You need common sense and insights and intelligence that we can derive to do your job better.
What's emerging in data? The management, orchestration of data? What's the future look like?
Well, we're entering a phase of yottabytes of data. And everyone a few years ago...
Sorry. Oh, what?
Yottabyte. You know that little guy in Star Wars who couldn't even predicted this? Literally, that's the scale of data that we're entering. And that is a collection of everything that we know and live and breathe today on our daily lives. The way we interact on mobile devices, at home, home automation, IoT, connected cars, everything, let alone the things we do at work, right? So we're entering more than just petabytes of scale that's required. It's yottabytes. And so what that really has implication to is a few things. One, how do you make insight of all that information from the tsunami of data that's growing? You can't do that because no longer is it a human scale problem, it's a machine scale problem. Two, how do you actually leverage those insights and intelligence to actually drive actionable results, right? And so this is where you have to put it in context. In the case of what we're doing with you guys at Sauce is helping reliability and quality of testing as these new digital services get rolled out, right? We also do the same on the security side for a lot of other customers. The third thing that comes out is implications to data privacy, process control, right? So you have data privacy and sovereignty, process and control mechanisms, right? So you can mitigate risk and breach and all that. And lastly, how you actually can improve collaboration and communication.
I'm a great believer in the horizon-based visioning. I read an article just today, actually, from McKinsey about the collapsing time zone that we're in because of the speed of tech development that actually nudged me a little bit that says, hey, us CEOs haven't got the memo. We haven't got time to do 1, 2, and 3. Now, whether you agree or whether you don't, as you vision for the future, what do you now look at as the future horizons? What do you think is going to happen? And if you want to make that contextually broader than just Sumo, we'd be delighted to hear your view.
Well, it's very easy because I'm a technologist and product guy to focus on what features and speeds and feeds and things we're going to do different. You have to counterbalance that with maturation readiness of a market, right? And timing. And so while we've been plotting out these horizons, it's also important to know that while there's a huge escape velocity of data volume growth, right? The actual maturity in the market to understand how to deal with that data is very immature, right? As evidenced by the fraction of workloads that are in the cloud today, as evidenced by organizational models that are very static still in terms of how they are working together or independently, and as evidenced by the plethora of disparate tools that are not integrated. I think one of those analysts actually noted that it's not uncommon for an enterprise IT organization to have over 100 different data analysis and reporting tools. I don't know what the heck they could do with 100 of them, right? So the challenge here is, like, as much as you want to build to the future, right? Because we know that cloud and SaaS is one, digital is two, data sovereignty, privacy, control, access control, while on the flip side of that, using that data for intelligence and analytics to make a system smarter, that balance that you have to go through. It's really the adoption curve and maturity, because we're in the trough of disillusionment right now, right? Before we come out and you see really the peak growth.
What do you hold dear in terms of your leadership philosophy?
Well, I think a lot of the lessons I learned didn't come from work, came from personal.
Interesting.
You know, I'm an immigrant to the U.S. My father's Iranian, my mother's American. We left during the revolution and war in '79, and we came to the U.S. and started over, right? And that unfortunately happened again to our family. And so you learn from those mistakes, and, you know, it gives you courage, and it gives you strength to not fear about losing, but focusing on gaining. And that, coupled with some early mentors that I had in my career, when I got started at Netscape and then later on AOL and then a few other companies, helped really set me on the path of, you know, not just product orientation, but also the type of leader that I wanted to be. And that is someone that's connected to customers, that's driving culture and change, right? And that is really focused on the technology trends that are coming and disrupting, and not be left behind. So there's a few mentors, Ben Horowitz from Andreessen Horowitz, that I've had, and the work he and Mark did, and a gentleman by the name of Mike Homer early on when they built Net Center, early to arguably too much, right? There's some folks in my other career moves that I made at Mercury and VMware and others in the midst that helped really shape me today. And so I think those leadership lessons from them has now put me in a position where it's my turn to give back. My turn to give back to our organization, and I try to do the same for earlier entrepreneurs that are earlier in their stage of the journey of the company, and hopefully not make the same mistakes we made or I made. And a lot of people don't talk about mistakes. They talk about successes. So one of the things that's really fundamental to that question is you got to learn from both, not just emulate success. I think underpinning that, a lot of it has to do with transparency. The more transparent you are, the more clearly you can communicate from a leadership perspective in terms of things around decision making and control, the better the organization will be. So one typical philosophy I use a lot, there's a difference with being empowered, informed, or involved in a decision. And that helps drive clarity. And so there's just those types of things that I've kind of been fortunate to learn from others and emulate and develop myself, that gave me the opportunity, fortunately, to come to Sumo and try to leave my mark.
Ramin, thank you so much for what you're doing for security, quality, resilience, reliability, and for everything that you've contributed today. It's been a pleasure to have you. Thank you.
Aled, thank you for your friendship, your partnership, and this opportunity, and I look forward to doing a lot more with you.
Great. Thank you, sir.